All right, Russ, I know that you just spent the last weekend or 5 days down at Scrub Island doing the due diligence on our trip for the Passive Income Mastermind coming this June. Is there any land down there that we can flip? Like we're talking about land flipping today. Can we flip some land on Scrub Island?
There is an opportunity, Stallion. They sell land on Scrub Island. There's lots for sale.
Okay. I mean, but do you see how we can owner finance this back to people? Like, how's this going to work?
I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but I'm thinking I'm willing to make a due diligent effort. If I have to take another
trip,
another trip down there to spend time to really soak it in. I mean, because here's the thing, when you're selling land, right, you're really selling a vision, because land is pretty empty in of itself.
Right.
People want to enjoy that land for some reason. If you're buying land to hunt on, you're buying land to ride your ATVs or to park your RV, or maybe it's to sit there and to enjoy it with family, or maybe it's to build a dream home that then you could rent. And Stallion, I think that I could sit on this land in a really nice dream home. So I really feel like I'm going to have to make another trip down there before our trip in June. I'm going to have to go back and visit it again and come back with more details.
Well, if you are interested, you need to check us out at thepassiveincomemastermind.com. We'll put all the details about this upcoming retreat there. But today we got to talk to all the coaches about land flipping. Why is this a good passive income stream? Is it the fit for everybody? Like, how are people taking advantage of this? I think this is one of the top strategies we've ever implemented. And I can't wait for you to learn more about it. Anything else you want to add before we jump into this episode?
No, if you're interested in the different ways to do it, we're going to cover that. If you're figuring out, does it fit your personality profile, we go through the investor DNA. And if you want to hear maybe some success stories of people who are winning doing this, all of that is included in this episode, as well as Joey and I sitting side by side with the coaches. So Joey, pull your chair up to the table. Let's belly up.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Welcome into the Financial Freedom Roundtable, where each week we break down complex financial topics so that you can more easily understand it and, more importantly, take action on your path to becoming financially free. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Grateful to have you in the room. I'm Russ Morgan. They call me the idea guy, mostly because lack of follow-through guy or bad internet guy just didn't sound so cool. But enough about me for a moment. Let me introduce you to my co-host, my partner. He's the Italian Stallion, and he's got the license plate cover to prove it, Mr. Joey Murray. Stallion, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Russ. Good to be sitting side saddle with you here at the round table.
This is a pleasant surprise to be so close to you.
Well, I mean, we're sitting here talking about land flipping, and we're partners. We pretty much share the same brain, so we should sit as close as possible to one another to share this with the world. That's my thought.
I know we love this idea so much together that we probably will share the same comments oftentimes. But that's why we brought in the dream team of financial coaches, right?
That's right.
Let's get their opinion on it. So this is one of 8 or 9 subjects where we're going to break down different passive income streams that we did in 2022 so that you can hear it. But let's hear from those dream teams. So to my left, I got the retiree of the group, Mr. Catch Me If You Can, when he's not killing bears with his bare hands. He's spear diving for tuna. He's right here dropping gold nuggets, the one and only Mr. Mark Caragucci. Welcome, Mark.
Good afternoon. It's been a little while since I've been in the round table. We've had some other things going on, but it's great to be back, man. Digitally and around this table. Land flipping is a really interesting topic. Growing up in the state of Hawaii, the only state in the union that's getting bigger, by the way. because the island of Hawaii is actually growing. So land is a very finite resource, except in that one instance. But yeah, land has always been very important. And I think this is a great opportunity for a lot of people to learn a different way to get into the passive income game.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you've had some close friends to you, people that you've been coaching and mentoring that have been utilizing this. So I want to get some of those stories in a second. Let me jump around to the piano man. We're all in the mood for passive income, and you've got Seeing the Light, Mr. Matthew Hammond. Welcome, Matthew.
Thanks, Russ. Good to be here.
Matthew, you love passive income. You love land flipping. You kind of got involved in this in a very passive way. You're going to be telling us about in a second. But other than that, why do you think this is going to be a good topic for people to learn about?
Well, frankly, just to kind of add to what Mark said, I mean, land is a hot commodity. They're not making any more of it. So if you want to take advantage of this valuable asset, then land flipping is definitely the way to go for building your passive income.
I love that. All right, let's get around to Mr. Real Estate himself. I mean, land, bro. This is all sort of real estate. This was the original real estate, right? We got Mr. B-Ham. He's agnostic to his type as long as it produces cash flow. The multi-talented Jamie O'Brien. Good to see you, Jamie.
Hey, good to be here, Russ. Just enjoying another day in paradise, my friend.
The fact that land does not give you the ability to build a house, renovate it, put a renter in it. I know that that's a little bit different than what you've been doing. So are you looking at this in a positive light or no?
I'm looking at this in a very positive light. You said it. I'm agnostic to its type as long as it produces cash flow. My eyes were extremely opened at Inner Circle Live to what kind of cash flow this can produce. So it is high on my list of things to learn more about, get educated on, and dig deeper in.
All right, let me get over to the doctor, man. When this guy isn't just reeling in 2 baths at a time, he's diagnosing balance sheets. We like to call him the DFN, the doctor of financial medicine. He's got a precision-like approach to cash flow, and he can diagnose problems before they even occur just by looking at your financial statement. Mr. Automated Budget himself. Great to have you on, Eric.
Man, thank you so much. Great to be here. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. This topic has made a big difference in my investing life. It's such a unique space that not everybody's heard about. And asset-based investing rather than paper-based investing has become a huge part of my investing portfolio. And I'll tell you, I feel all the better for it.
Hey, I'm with you. I feel like 18,000 in life to go on this one, Joey, because I am looking at our passive income report, the last one we posted, and we were right at 18,000 a month net from our land flipping business. So it definitely is one of my favorite. I see it continuing to grow. It is one of those things that I think when we were talking about going deeper into each passive income source we had in 2022, this had to be at the top of the list. It had to be number one for me.
No doubt. And here's what I love about it. You're gonna hear from all the coaches, their experience, what they've seen others do, the success stories. But the beautiful thing about this is it's not complex, right? This is a simple process. It's just unknown. And I'll tell you this, they're not teaching this kind of stuff in high school. I know for a fact because my daughters had no idea about land flipping until we started talking about it. They attended a boot camp from the Land Geek. And my 16-year-old has gotten so fired up about this. She's now sold 3 properties and is on her 4th. And I just did the quick math on this. The amount of income that she's going to be creating from those 4 notes is the equivalent of what her friends are going to work for 80 hours per month.
Wow.
Can you imagine having to go to work for 20 hours a week in high school just to make the kind of returns or cash flow that she's created with 4 notes? That's why we need to focus in on this topic today.
Yeah. Well, let's break down this. This is where I want to go deeper. I want to talk a little bit, guys, first on the different ways to make money in this land flipping, land investing environment, right? And then I want to go one step deeper and talk about who likes this, like who's going to be the perfect fit. I know we talk about on the show a lot our investor DNA. And I would like us to break down like where people will find enjoyment in this, why they will be excited, but also let's don't make it all rainbows and unicorns here, Joey. We got to make sure we talk a little bit about the ugly, right? The cons, the things that people need to know, because it is a significant business. And then lastly, we can share some stories. We've all had people either in our inner circle or inner circle plus, our passive income mastermind, just close friends. As personally have seen gains in this. And I want to share our personal experiences, because that's what makes, I feel like, what we're going through a little bit different and unique, is that we all have some very close tie and close interaction to this that we can share and give that wisdom to someone else listening.
Yeah.
All right. So let me come around to you, Eric. I'd love to start with you first, if it's all right. There's lots of different ways to make money in this game. You've seen it. Would you just share one of those so that we can break that down for the person listening?
Man, it's really easy, Russ. It's just like any other investment. It's where all the money is made. Buy low, sell high. So I'm in the done for you land business that I've partnered with Land Geek to do. And what they do on my behalf is they buy, what you might say wholesale. They may buy a large tract of land and then divide it up, put some roads in there, improve the asset, and then sell it retail, either for cash, which is fine, or what we actually prefer, to owner finance it and put that thing on payments for our client, which makes it a win-win for both of us.
Stallion,
let's talk about that for a second. Why is that a win-win, Eric? And how do you see it being a win for the person buying the land?
The way I see it, Joey, is because we're the owner, we're the one doing the financing. Our client may have very specific needs when it comes to their finances. And because we're not the bank, we're in complete control. So if they need that payment to go out 10 years and we need to do the math that way, that's something we have the option of doing. We can take a smaller down payment or a larger down payment. We can wait a year. We can do one payment a year. We own it. We can do it any way we want, and we can really make it work for the buyer.
Well, and I'm going to add to that, from my background being in the mortgage business. You try selling a piece of property for $25K. Let's just say, and we're selling, properties from 10,000 to 20 to 30,000, that range. It's virtually impossible to finance, right? No bank, first of all, no realtor is going to list that property for sale. So there's a seller who has a property that's worth 20 grand and they can't figure out how to sell it because there's no realtors. There's no time that's worth it for that realtor to sell it. So they have a problem there. And then on the buy side, the buyer says, man, I'd really like to own this land. One, it's not listed for sale, so I don't even know it exists. And then secondly, it hits the market and they're like, I don't have 25 grand. How could I finance it? They go to a bank. Bank says, sorry, it's too small of a loan. We don't even fool with that. So what is beautiful about this model is it's in that space, at least the way that ours is set up. And we can talk about all the different ways that it could be done. But the way ours is set up is in that sweet spot where, to your point, it is a win all the way around, and we're reaping the benefits from that. The one way that I wanted to mention is the one way that I'm seeing my daughter have success is I didn't want her to get bogged down with sending a bunch of letters to sellers, trying to get them to sell their property to her, and then her having to field a bunch of phone calls all the time while she's in school. I mean, she has to actually learn something in school, right? She can't just be building her business. And so I said, look, why don't we focus on just buying the land from another investor who's already done the mailers, who's already found the really low price, give them a profit, buy it from them wholesale, and then all you do is focus on selling to the retail buyer on terms. And so she's got it down to where literally she buys the land wholesale. She gets a virtual assistant to put the properties on all these land websites and Facebook and other things, and they manage the communications there until it gets to a point where that person is a serious buyer, and then they assign that person to her to make the phone call for the sale. So her involvement is a sliver of time, but it's the most important time when they actually make the sale. And that's where she's seeing so much success. So I love that model.
Well, and what's beautiful about that, and those who are going through this process, and Mark, I know you have a good friend that's kind of bought from the very beginning and gone. I want you to kind of talk into that. But one of those steps within that process, when you're buying the land, you have to go through and do a lot of due diligence, right? You have to understand the county. You need to understand the restrictions of what can happen. And the person who's gone through that process and bought it and now is turning around and selling it to your daughter, not only is she getting the property without having to deal with all the mailers and the conversations back and forth with the person selling it, but she also didn't have to do the due diligence. She got the due diligence in hand. She already has like a list basically that she can just use to hand over to her marketers to say, when people ask questions, here's the list, here's the answers to the questions.
Including pictures of the land.
Yeah.
Right, which is brilliant, because then all the, it's already done. She just has to start to get the word out about it.
We know Joey is a master delegator, and it sounds like that nut is not falling too far from the tree with your daughter. That's awesome. All right, Mark, let's talk. What's another way that you've seen others go through and do the land business?
Well, my friend actually did it from ground zero. She was the one who was doing the due diligence, the mailers and all that. But I do want to take a moment and just remind people, she went through, it wasn't the process at the time, but she basically went through our process. She figured out her goal. She implemented infinite banking. And then she started getting exposed to passive income ideas. And with those first two steps out of the way, step 3 just became that much simpler because she had a goal in mind. And she figured out, hey, I've got this goal. I've got this destination. I now have my own personal cash flow system where I can store my wealth and access it with only 2 questions. How much do you want and where do you want it sent? And she gets to make the terms of when that's repaid and how it's repaid. And that gave her the freedom, flexibility, and confidence to go and secure these plots of land and not have to worry about a lender saying, hey, by the way, it's the first of the month. Where's our money? Where's this? Where's that? She had the flexibility to then put those parcels out there to go and get her the best deal. And she did a lot of terms. She also did some cash deals. But that flexibility in that personal cash flow system, coupled with Mark Podolsky's unraveling of land flipping and sharing it in his book, Dirt Rich, free plug there, Mark, you're welcome. And that allowed her to deleverage out of her W-2 and regain time. And now she can do her own passion projects on the side, which to me just shows the power of this system and what it allowed her to do.
Which, by the way, Mark, what sort of work was she in that allowed her to start this business on the side and then eventually quit her job?
Oh, she was a public school educator. So she did work in the Department of Education. She had achieved the highest level in education. She had a PhD. So she was smart. She was looking around the angles and helping people solve problems was basically her deal. And now it was time to say, well, would you like to refocus some of that energy and let's solve some of your life problems and get you the time so that you can give it where you want it best used.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we were able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before. Go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/PIOS. There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, pop quiz day. Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared, though, for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
Well, a couple of things I want to point out in that, and I'll come over and get your opinion too, Jamie. But one of the things you just said, she was a public school educator. So that would not lend itself typically to a natural entrepreneur. So that's a question people have. Do I have to be an entrepreneur? Do I have to have that mindset to be successful here? The second thing is that she got her cash in a place she could access it, right? A lot of times people in that space, the public educator space, the government space, would have most of their money tied up in thrift savings accounts, right? Pension plans, or be just waiting on the retirement plan that would come, and would not have access to cash. And because she met you and had a chance to understand that having her money and available in a place that she could access gave her opportunities that she just assumed were not available probably to her. And these are just great ideas, but maybe this just wasn't fit me. I love everything about that, because when she got that, she knew then I could put this money to work. And by putting it to work, it said, hey, there's a cost to borrowing against this money, right? We talk about infinite banking a lot on the show, but I don't think everybody always gets this. It's not free money, right? We put it there, and when we use it, it has a cost. Now, the cost exists either way. If we don't use it, it has a cost, right? Because what it could have been doing for us is expensive sometimes, especially if you're educated. And when she realized, if I put it to work, yeah, I have a minimal cost to pay the insurance company back, but that's pennies to the dollars that I'll earn by putting it to work and earning note income from selling land. And I think that just we need to keep reiterating it, keep reminding you of this power of infinite banking and how it helps you gain even more traction on your way to passive income being greater than your monthly expenses. All right, Jamie, I don't know if we left you any meat on the bone, but there's a couple different ways people are building passive income through land flipping. You got any ideas you want to share?
Man, I think we've talked about a lot of them, buying at wholesale, selling at retail, right? Doing the owner financing and selling it on terms. The wholetailing where you buy it from an investor that's already done the hard work, and then you can do whatever you want with it. My idea around all of this is, you've heard me say it on previous shows, why I like real estate is it usually gives me options, right? Like I like options whenever I invest, and I like an asset back investment. So real quickly, one of my strategies when I was buying, and still am buying, single family houses was buy and put a renter in it, capitalize a little bit of cash flow now, but as I get older into retirement, start seller financing those things. Well, there's a little law called Dodd-Frank that limits how many I can seller finance a year. And one thing that I learned about land flipping pretty recently is vacant land is exempt from Dodd-Frank. So you can do as many of these things as you want in whatever given year. And I just think that is so powerful.
Man, that's a great point. All right, let's dive a little bit into the different investor DNA profiles that will like this, right? So I'm gonna go through the DISC, right? So I'm coming to you, Matthew, from a D's perspective. Let's talk a little bit about what a D, someone who has a dominant trait, somebody who likes to be in charge, who sees the benefits of things and wants to make it happen. What's your opinion of why this fits so well for a D?
So for D, those that have the D dominant trait, they are by nature deal makers. And that's all land flipping is. When you have a land flipping business, you are making deals, whether it's on the selling side or the buying side. It's constant deal making. And as a D, you love to be able to be the owner, the controller of the business. And so again, you're making the deals, you're controlling the business, and land in general is an inefficient market. So because it's so inefficient and because you have that natural ability to make deals, you can buy for pennies on the dollar and you can sell for 5, 6, 7, or Mark Podolsky's case, sometimes 20 times what you paid for it. So the return on investment is so enormous that, for a D, it's really hard to pass up.
I love that. All right. Now, for influencers, people on the I spectrum, we love everything, Jamie. There's not much we don't like. But from your perspective, touch a few more points. You mentioned a second ago that not being restricted by Dodd-Frank, but that's not the only reason an influencer like yourself would like this.
No, I mean, we talk about return on investment and cash flow, right? Obviously, that's a piece of the puzzle. But I mean, for me, it's ability to talk to people. I'm going to be able to have a sales process and sell on the backside. I'm going to be able to talk to people that want to sell and build relationships, build rapport. Doing that on both sides, the buy and sell. I love people. I love kind of just connecting with people, learning people's stories, helping people out. I really see a lot of fun and value in that on the back end. When I go to sell a property is, as Eric was talking about, how can we make this work for you? How can we make it work for me? The biggest thing I've always struggled with is also have a little bit of trouble with systems and processes and staying focused on one thing at a time. So that's always been a holdup for me, is how do I actually systematize this, build this, and grow it? And so I've brought my wife in, who's much better at that than I am, as we start to learn about this, to see if maybe we can do this strategy together.
No tag team. I like that, man.
Smart man, wise.
All right. Speaking of wise, let's get over to the doctor, right? The S profile is the empathizer, right? The person who typically likes stability. Eric, you've been drawn to this. What were some of those things that drew you in as an S profile?
Yeah, for me, I don't know if most S's are this way. I assume they are. Like the confidence or the personality to go bust down their own wall. But I'm going to tell you, if they can link arms with a guy that's busting the wall down, they're going to be in the guy in the foxhole with you. And so for me, after reading Dirt Rich, identifying Mark Podolsky and the Land Geek as somebody that I could partner with to go knock down those walls, and I could keep handing them the ammunition and the hammers and whatever it took on my end, that allowed me the confidence to just provide resources to somebody that knew what they were doing. That way I could stay sort of removed from the business and just do my part. And I knew the business would be successful. And so for me, that's how I approached it. Plus, I just love the idea of owning and selling assets, that no matter what happened, I was always going to have the asset. There was so much stability in that for me.
Wow, that's so good. Mark, yesterday, I know you're the logical C of the group, the analytical, the former pilot, right? I'm flying on this little 10-seat Cessna, and that includes the pilot and the co-pilot seat, right? And I'm looking out as we're flying over the ocean, and on the right wing, on one of the rivets, there's 3 bolts that look like they are unscrewing, okay? And I'm just nervous. And I'm not going to mention this to my wife because she's already terrified that we're in this little bitty puddle jumper. And I'm like, okay, we'll just keep, nothing I can do now, like, I mean, no reason to raise alarms. So we hit the ground and we hit the ground. I look over and I noticed that those bolts had gone down. Right. And I'm thinking, that's odd. That doesn't seem right. So, the guy who wants to tell everybody everything and, assuming I know it, I tell the guy who's, unloading us, hey, by the way, check this out. And he seemed to kind of dismiss me. And so we're having to follow the pilot through customs. And I say, hey, by the way, here's the thing. And he says, how many bolts were there? I was like, 3. He goes, well, that's not a tremendous amount, but I'll make sure I mention that to maintenance. We've got so many redundancies in that it's a little bit overkill for that, but I'll definitely make sure I mention it. So I bring all that up to say, from an analytical standpoint, as somebody who's always thinking in the redundancy, what is it that drew you to this idea? Why do you feel like, from a C's perspective, somebody would enjoy investing in land flipping?
Well, I'm going to not be the unicorn rainbows and cotton candy on this one for you. I'm actually going to let you know that as a logical C, the spreadsheets, the numbers, the analytics, it's amazing. It makes perfect sense. But if you're asking me, is this a fit for someone who's a C? I'm going to tell you, it depends. It depends on how you want to interact with this specific investment. I know that for me as a logical C, and if you guys understand what a logical C is, you realize we can't be bothered with other letters at all. Like I can't even be anything else because I'm just so hardcore C that I tell the other ones just get away. Is being the sole point of contact doesn't fit necessarily for a C. I don't want to have to go and take photos of land. I don't want to have to do mailers. I don't want to have to look at county records. I don't want to have to look at tax records. I don't want to do that part. But to Eric's point earlier, that's okay, right? It's better that you know that about yourself so that you can figure out if you do like the investment, if the investment itself makes sense, then all you have to do is figure out, how can I interact with this in a way that then fits with me? That's not going to drive me crazy and send me up a wall and negate the benefit of the passive income by all the other things that might add onto my plate. So finding an operator, finding someone else, maybe becoming a lender. So for me, as a logical C, being in the lender position, again, using my own personal cash flow system to be the bank. Now I am a personal bank. I can lend to my friend who does land. I don't have to do county records, tax records, mailers, Facebook ads, finding out how to sell it, how to talk to people on the phone about a raw piece of land somewhere that they don't know how to find. I'm just the money. So again, investments are investments. There's not good investments. There's not bad investments. It's just a matter of how are you going to interact with it and make it work for you. And that's the way that I've made land flipping work for me. Is I'm not the actual flipper. I'm the money. So I just roll in, lend some money, let it get sold, and then I just collect my check. And you know what? Everyone walks away happy.
It's just a typical pilot, right? Just shows up, gets on the plane, it's been fueled up, it's been checked out, drive it to the next destination, get off and let somebody else deal with the rest of it. Amazing.
100%.
I love that. All right. So there's some cons that Mark didn't add in there. And before we get to how people are winning, success stories that we see, are there any other little points you'd want to throw in there for people that would help them better understand a more rounded side of it?
I think if you are looking for something that's just terribly, terribly passive, and you're not in our passive income mastermind, so you get access to the done for you option, right? That's one of the top reasons we've actually heard some of the people join our mastermind, because they get pushed to the front of the line to get their done for you business started with Land Geek. If you're not in that position, then you may not have the time to do this, right? To start flight school, to walk through building the systems, to finding the virtual assistants that will help assist you. Like, this is a true business. And you may not have the extra 10 to 15, 20 hours a week to build it. So that could be a negative. I think if you're just naturally not detailed, keeping up with the records of when loan notes are coming due and was that payment received, following the money, making sure that all the marketing aspects are done and completed. There are some significant details that have to be considered and followed up. And I think if you're just naturally not that way, it could be overwhelming. And the other part, I think, is it's very easy to run out of money. And so to Mark's point, if you have very limited funds, you're going to feel squeezed, because once you start selling on terms, it takes a while for that money to come back in. It's great that it's coming in residual payments, but you also still need to keep buying more land. It's kind of a hamster wheel that creates itself. And if you don't have significant reserves or cash to access, you haven't set up your cash flow system like Mark mentioned earlier that his friend did, then you're going to run out of money. And trying to raise funds could be challenging, or it could be, something outside of your norm or that you would want to do. So I think those are things you have to consider.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you get into this and you're going to handle all aspects of it, you're going to learn how to become a money raiser before it's over with. Because the most successful in this game are raising capital from others in order to be able to continue to do their business. And that's the way it works, because dollars follow value. And this is one of those businesses that you can create that can build a ton of value, and people will want to get their dollars in there with you. So let's talk about some of those success stories. I'm gonna share there's so many that I've heard, but just one that we've highlighted on the podcast before. And he talked about, he was an attorney. He had been watching his partners in the practice that he was in, who'd been working for 20, 30, 40 years. And he was just seeing them. He was a young single guy and had just gotten engaged and was thinking, man, this is the track. This is my life. Just looking, these guys are just, they're the future, right? This is what I'm going to look like 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And even though they were living very, plush lifestyles, enjoying a lot of life's, luxuries, they also were working 60 and 70 and sometimes 80 hours a week in order to be able to do it. They were trading time for money. Now, they were getting paid a lot per hour, but they were still trading a lot of time for money. And for him, he said that was just not what I was looking for. And he detailed that on a podcast with us where he just said, he started seeking out other ideas. And Jamie, like he probably researched every real estate idea, and he heard this podcast of land flipping and said, man, I got a little time on the side. He started doing it 10 hours a week here, 15 hours a week there. And after 4 years, he got to a point where his income coming from his land flipping notes were like 150% of what his income was in his legal practice. And he completely scaled it back and then ultimately fired his boss and is 100% land flipping now, and spends his time in our passive income mastermind really just kind of laughing at me and Joey, I think, about, how much we tend to end up working in the things that we're doing. And he travels the world enjoying life with his new wife. So give me, Matthew, I know you've gotten involved in this with friends and started to see success. You want to share a story or two?
Yeah, I mean, we've my buddies Jonathan and Brent, if you've listened to that episode where we were interviewed, you kind of know a little bit of backstory about this, but we like to sit around every now and then, and we do our devotionals together. We're in a devotional church group together, and we do our devotionals, but we also, the conversation always ends up gravitating towards passive income and investment opportunities once we've devoted our time that we needed to God. And we started talking about land flipping, and we both had, we all three of us had read Dirt Rich by Mark, and we were immediately hooked on the idea of buying land for pennies on the dollar and selling it for multitudes times what we bought it for. And so as we did more and more research, we determined that the process that they set up is just so perfect, and it works as long as you follow the process. The only downside was for us at the time, we all have full-time jobs and we didn't really have the time to devote to it. So we decided to actually, like Eric, we decided to go the done for you route. We were very blessed to have the capital that we could put towards it to replace the time that we didn't have. And so we partnered with the Land Geeks, and all three of us individually, we actually have our own individual businesses. And we just love being able to meet up and show each other our Land Geek portals and the progress that the Land Geeks are doing with our businesses, the buying and the selling, and seeing the bank accounts grow. And it's really exciting. And it's 100% passive for us. And so that's even more exciting for us.
I love that. Stallion, you've seen a bunch. What's the story that sticks out to you?
Well, I mean, obviously I've shared, how it's worked for us every month. I've been able to share some about how it's helping my daughter. But I want to say, again, I want to reiterate, there are people that have joined our mastermind just to have access to this. Of course, they realize there's so much more beyond that, but this is a real benefit to get moved from, instead of having to wait till 2026 or 2027, I think is how long the waiting list is for this done for you. They want to be a part of that sooner, and they get access to that through our mastermind. One of the guys in our mastermind got so fired up about this idea of passive income and getting his own financial freedom. He is now looking at the date being next June, being free of his dentistry job. And part of that is about 3 or 4 months ago, he launched his done for you option and is already at like $6,500 a month of passive income in just a few months. Now, he absolutely funded it aggressively because he knew it, he understood it, and he knew like the power behind this. So he's seeing those results. You get what you put in to anything. But man, just really excited to see he's able to move his date up to potentially like earlier this year, to when he can be free because of things like his Done For You land business. And that gets me really excited.
All right. Gets me excited. I love hearing the stories. All right, let's go around and get some final thoughts here. First on the board, Mark.
Final thoughts. If you really want to know more, obviously you can go check out Land Geek, but you can also look at our past podcasts. We've interviewed people that have done this. You got a young lady who was in college who did it. So clearly it's possible. She saw the writing on the wall from what she was doing, but she does it now so that she can do what she actually wants to do. You got Adam Egloff, who left his job doing the delivery trucks. Don Paresa, another example of one who's done it. We've got a lot of people that have done this. So folks, if you're sitting back and you're thinking, I just don't know if it's for me. Well, it could be, and you're only going to know if you dig into it. So it's time to get off the couch, time to get moving, and time to start pushing forward.
All right, Eric, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 6 of us on this Zoom call that we're doing here for the podcast. And if our average looks on a 1 to 10 scale is a 4, I've also seen all of our wives, and that average is 10. And so there's got to be something going on there. And I don't know if I'm coining a phrase because it seems too simple to have been coined by me today, but the power of pursuit, right? Mm-hmm. Going after what you want or going after education. And I looked back on my Amazon list and I bought Dirt Rich May 9th, 2020 from Amazon. And guess what? I didn't just buy that on a whim. I got that information because I was pursuing information. And I found it on the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. So it's critical. Not only, don't just go jump into the land business, pursue information. Like Mark's saying, listen to the podcast, read, talk with people. But it's the power of the pursuit of information and getting off the couch, like Mark said. We were talking about on a recent podcast, trailblazers in different area, and every trailblazer had to leave the safety of their home to go be a trailblazer. So you're going to have to leave the safety of where you are to make something happen in your life. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So pursue that information. Get on a coaching call with one of us, and we'd love to help you, map out your next 100 years.
I love that. The thing with averages, though, it can be deceiving, right? Like I had a friend of mine love to run marathons, right? And he and I together on a typical week might run, 13.1 miles, between us, but I'm assume in this situation, like with Joey and I sitting side by side, I was a 7 and he was a 1. We got down to that 4 average, but that's okay. We'll work on it.
Okay.
All right. Final thoughts, Jamie.
Man, my final thoughts, Eric, that was so good and so point on. My final thoughts are people coming to us typically for access to information or ideas to get their path started. And there's a million of them out there. We've talked about a lot about the investor DNA. I think it's important to know who you are, what fits your style, and also be realistic about your current situation. There's, I as well heard about land years ago, was working a very demanding W-2. And for me at that point in time, the time was the big factor. I didn't have the time to build the business. I knew that. I knew it wouldn't be effective and efficient if I did. So it always starts with education, but I think you also need to understand where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish, what those goals are, why you want them, and then take action, whatever direction that's going to be.
Matthew, final thought.
Yeah, if you were to ask me, is land flipping the right thing for me to do? I would go the Mark Haraguchi route, and I would say it depends. So just like what the other coaches were saying, you need to know your investor DNA, and you need to be able to weigh those pros and cons to determine if the land flipping is part of your investor DNA. Robert Kiyosaki says, and we've mentioned it, we've quoted it many times, there's no such thing as a bad investment, only bad investors. And bad investors are people that don't know what their investor DNA is and just jump into investments without doing their due diligence, without getting the necessary education to make sure that it is the right route for them to take. So if this is the first time you're hearing about the investor DNA on this episode, you need to join our community, jump on a call with me or one of the other coaches, and we can get you access to your investor DNA so that you can get the ball rolling and find out what the appropriate passive income opportunities are to your investor style. So I look forward to talking to you.
It's awesome. My final thought is exactly that. Like, get on a call, go to wealth.wallstreet.com/free call and start the process. If this is overwhelming to you, you're like, man, I don't know if land flipping is the right thing. It sounds really good. It doesn't have to be, but that's because you need the clarity of getting clear on your goal and then getting your system prepped. In fact, another guy that was at our event recently, he said, man, I don't know if I fit exactly what you guys are talking about. Like, he wants to leave his current job and start a business. It's not one of these passive income businesses. It's more of an active business he wants to start. I said, well, that's great, because you have clarity on what you're trying to accomplish. Now you just need to get the basic steps figured out. Get your cash flows right so that when you exit, you're in the best position possible and have your cash in the right location. And that's what these coaches do, right? They help you to organize and put things in perspective so that you're ready to take off like a rocket instead of starting strong and then falling short because you didn't have all these things in place. So I want to call you to action to do that and make sure that you have your ducks in a row. What about you, Russ?
Well, I don't believe in luck, but I know that a lot of people look at Las Vegas as a city to go to for luck. Well, here's what I can say that could be a guarantee. If you're really interested in this, I'm going to give Mark and his team a big plug here. Come join Joey and I and probably 150 others in Las Vegas, April 21st through the 23rd at their live Land Geek Bootcamp, where they go through each step of this process, and you can meet the Stallion and I. We'd love to meet you as a podcast listener and have you there as we continue to learn and grow as well in this process. As always, we're grateful that you stuck around for this. I know it was a long one, but it's a lot of great information. Thank you, coaches, for giving amazing wisdom as always, and have a great day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.